Once again, I hate unsolved mysteries. Oh, no, love the TV show Unsolved Mysteries. It's one of the reasons why I'm fascinated by mysteries. However, what I really loved about the show was when they would get solved, when there would be an update on a previous episode. Loved that. Unfortunately, as you know, not all mysteries ever get solved, and those are the ones I don't like. But they deserve to be heard. You just never know. Though these happened nearly a century ago, or in our first story, well over a century ago, maybe someone cleaning out great-grandma's attic or great-great-grandpa's barn would find a clue, would find something to solve a mystery. I always hope a miracle like that could happen. Over the next couple of weeks, maybe 3, we're going to discuss 4 college students. Today, we're only going to cover one. It's linked to a degree, at least geographically, and by the age of the student. Shall we? Our first case will be Bertha Lane Mellish, who went missing from Mount Holyoke College November 18, 1897. Bertha was the daughter of Reverend John H. Mellish of Killingly, Connecticut, and was attending Mount Holyoke College in South Hadley, Massachusetts, part of the junior class. She was last seen on a Thursday afternoon walking from the dorms to the South Hadley post office, which was only a few minutes away. And that's it. Search parties have scoured South Hadley and the surrounding area to no avail. Her father has arrived and the Pinkerton Detective Agency is on the case. Bertha is 20 years old, petite, and said to be attractive in face and disposition. President Meade of the college stated that Bertha was bright and studious, well liked by faculty and her classmates, but, quote, reticent in disposition, end quote. Which I think is a collegiate way of saying she wasn't overly outgoing and talkative. Some believe she had been studying too hard of late and that her mind may have become affected. It's now November 21st, and men have been searching the woods near the college for Bertha. Already, hope is starting to feel lost. State Detective Munyon is of the opinion already that Bertha drowned in the Connecticut River, whether it was by accident or if she had taken her own life. No one can fathom how she would just leave and not tell anyone. One of her friends, Miss Eaton, said that Bertha was very adventuresome, liked to take walks in the woods. Perhaps she had wandered away during one of her walks, got lost, and passed away in the woods. A pond behind the college was sectioned off this day for a search, and another was dragged. And already we're starting to see false leads, which will come up quite a bit. Someone reported seeing a young woman of Bertha's description at the town depot, but later thought not to be her. November 23rd. Still no real clues until now. According to the Massachusetts Secret Service Agency, quote, I have discovered footprints of Miss Bertha Mellish 2½ miles from South Hadley on the line of the Connecticut River at a place called The Gorge. This, the students say, was a favorite haunt of Bertha's. 7 men are now starting in teams to drag the river where the footprints cease. They are accompanied by Dr. Hammond, the family physician, end quote. But after this, nothing was found. Bertha wrote her father 4 days before she disappeared, quote, something very important is to happen 4 weeks from yesterday, namely, my first debate here, and my last 2, probably, end quote. You can read into it what you like, but she was likely saying either she wasn't going to be good at her first debate and therefore she'd never be asked to do another, or she wasn't expecting to ever have to do another one. Bertha was said to be a great botany student, which was one of the reasons why she enjoyed her walks, no doubt to get a gander at the flora and the fauna on her trips. She usually walked in the afternoon, and it wasn't unusual for a young woman to walk alone, but she would also sometimes walk with a classmate. So, according to the tale as of now, San Francisco Call, November 24th, 1897. Quote, last Thursday afternoon, when Miss Mellish went for her customary walk, she was alone, but as near as can be learned, not of her own volition. She got up from the dinner table about 1:15 and asked the classmate referred to take that walk with her, referring evidently to a walk that had been planned before. For the first time since the girls had been together, it is said the classmate declined for some reason or other to go, and Miss Mellish passed out alone. She was seen shortly afterward walking along the road to Smith's Ferry and did not return to the exercises in the afternoon. At night, when she did not return, a search was made, but without result." End quote. Now, when they say it wasn't of her own volition, I thought that meant she was forced to go on this walk, but I guess she was going to have to walk on her own, though no one was forcing her to take any kind of walk. The exercises she was missing were, I think, those of the religious sort, as they were held in the chapel. 2 people had seen her during her walk. One said she had a book, the other not sure if she was carrying anything. The prevailing theory, some 8 days after her disappearance, continues to be that she took her own life by drowning. Another false lead: traveling salesman told Springfield police that he saw a young woman boarding the train car at New Haven. She got off at Hartford and hung around nervously at the station. He continued on to Springfield and had picked up a newspaper, seeing the picture of Miss Mellish. He immediately went to the police, believing that the woman he saw and Miss Mellish were one and the same. We're about a week later, December 2nd, and the college's reward for the discovery of Bertha has gone from $50 to $500. Another false lead. Reverend Mellish, Bertha's father, said that he had received a telegram from Jacksonville, Florida, stating that 3 people had been detained, one of whom matched the description of Bertha. Florence Mellish, Bertha's sister, accompanied by the family doctor, Dr. Hammond, took a boat train to Jacksonville. But the Reverend would receive a telegram from Florence, quote, "coming home, disappointed," end quote. Though many still think she's dead, December 10th, there is still some hope. From the Springfield Weekly Republican, December 10th, 1897. Quote, "Mr. Hill, at the college, admitted this week that the authorities had a hope that the girl was alive and that she would soon be restored to her friends. He could not explain the departure and failure to return except on the ground that the girl was out of her mind and that she has kept out of the sight of people since. There are several clues that are being worked out now that may result in deciding where the girl has been since the time of the disappearance, if it be true that she is still alive." End quote. Possible false lead, December 15th, 1897. One Captain Rowland of the Middletown, Portland and Highway Bridge said that he had been approached by a woman who had seen the body of a young woman floating in the river. Captain Rowland ran to the side of the bridge and he did see the body being carried down the stream. He couldn't leave his bridge post, so couldn't try to recover the body. He was sent word down the river to have people watch for the body. As far as I know, nothing came of this. The family is sending out a circular, aka a missing poster, basically, with a picture of Bertha and this writing. $500 reward. Bertha Lane Mellish, a student at Mount Holyoke College, South Hadley, Massachusetts, disappeared from the college on the 18th of November, 1897, and no trace of her has been found since that time. The following is a description. She is 20 years old, about 5 feet 5 inches in height, medium build, dark auburn hair, fair complexion, brown eyes, round face, full lips. Sometimes wore her hair parted and sometimes combed straight back. Very small faint scar in the center of forehead. When last seen, wore a black dress, shaggy black jacket, black cloth tam o' shanter. Underclothing was marked Mellish. She wore a gray flannel skirt. The above reward will be paid for the girl alive by Reverend John H. Mellish at Dayville, Connecticut. In addition to the $50 offered by the Mount Holyoke College, the family will pay $50 additional for the recovery of the body. Dayville, Connecticut, December 10th, 1897. Now, I thought that the college had increased their reward, but perhaps that was miswritten in the newspapers. December 17th. Her father does believe that she has probably passed away. The Willimantic Journal, December 17, 1897, has published her college essay, which is giving people ideas, that her own writing may have put ideas in her head, or the other way around. I'm not going to do the whole essay, but I'm going to put in the part they think is curious. Very basically, it's in the form of a one-sided conversation. Her character is telling a girl or young woman called Mary about her mother. Bertha's character is telling Mary how she came to know her mother, Marie, that Marie had a slight deformity and had some issues. She had gotten dismissed from her place of work, which she had shared with Bertha's character. Bertha's character had become good friends with Marie, but Marie could not get work, had no wealthy friends, and ended up going to the home of an older man who she could not get married to. Marie would end up having a baby and was isolated. After the birth, Bertha's character would try to go to visit her, but Marie ran from her through paths and up mountainous crags. And no matter how much Bertha's character called to her, Marie kept running. But the way Marie was running and climbing spelled danger. Bertha's character stopped where she was, so that Marie would hear that she was no longer being chased. But still, Marie tried to escape. Quoting from her essay, quote, "The time was endless, yet unrealizable. Suddenly I heard the sound that warned me that the river had its own. Then I flung myself down those rocks, lost my hold, and fell. They found us both that night. Marie at rest, it seemed, with none of the death agony in her still face. Me, bruised, half covered with a mass of small stones, at the foot of a low cliff. In my long illness afterward, I felt happier about Marie than I had for many months. Heaven's mercy had led her out from her shamed, stifled life to a guiltless death." End quote. So it ends with Bertha's character telling Mary that she had been left Marie's baby to take care of, which, of course, is Mary. March 30th, 1898. False lead. Body in the woods known as White's Grove by some boys. It was of a girl about 20, her head resting on a fence rail. The body appeared to have been there for several months. A man who lived nearby said that he recalled a woman coming to his house one night to ask the way to South Manchester. June 10th, 1898. False lead. George Mellish, who works at the New York Police Headquarters and is Bertha's uncle, said that there is nothing to the story that Bertha is in a New York hospital. Also, this from the Willimantic Journal, June 10th, 1898. Quote, "A Palmer man recently received a letter from his daughter, who was a student at Mount Holyoke, stating that a peculiar story was going the rounds in the college. One of the students had been taken ill and had gone to Northampton. While there, a stranger called one evening at the house where she was stopping and left a large package for her. He said nothing. The young woman opened the parcel and found another wrapper under the outer one. She took off wrapper after wrapper until she decided that a joke was being played upon her. She continued, however, and finally came to a small gold cross on which was engraved Bertha Mellish." End quote. It is learned that the young woman did receive the package and the cross was turned over to the police. The identity of the man who left the package has not been discovered, nor is it known where the cross came from. The police discredit the idea that it ever belonged to Miss Mellish, thinking that the name was engraved upon it by some person who wished to start a news story about the case. June 17, 1898. 4 boys were swimming in the Farmington River when they found the dead body of a girl tied up in a bundle near the bank. $3.20 was found on the body, which was decomposed. September 15, 1898. The body of a girl found in Yellow Mill Pond was identified as Bertha. But just wait. Shortly after Bertha had disappeared, the same man said that a woman named Mary Shepherd had appeared at his home, asking for boarding. He recognized that Mary was Bertha. He wrote to Bertha's father, who went to New London, and said that the girl was his daughter, then denied that the girl was his daughter. The father left, Mary Shepherd left the home, and no word. So he thinks that the body in the pond is Mary/Bertha. The man said, quote, "I would be willing to go on the stand and swear that this dead girl is Bertha Mellish," end quote. More about this later. February 9th, 1900. Reverend Mellish with regards to a story that his daughter was still alive. Quote, "There is no truth in the story. Since the disappearance of our daughter, Bertha Lane Mellish, from Mount Holyoke College 2 years ago, the 18th of last November, we have had no clue to the cause or manner of her disappearance. All remains as much a mystery as ever. But we know the story about which you inquire to be wholly false." End quote. Again, we'll talk about that again in just a minute. April 13th, 1900. Dr. Hammond, the family doctor, has a theory that Bertha took her own life from mental suggestion. That college essay I told you about earlier, He believed that location in her story was almost exactly the place where she herself allegedly died. Before she disappeared, she had been overworked and had become mentally tired and depressed. On the day of her disappearance, she went away into the fields, allegedly by the river, to work out that debate that she had wrote her father about. The doctor believes that when she returned, she passed by that cliff, as she wrote about in her essay, and the suggestion of the site of the cliff was so strong that she could not resist throwing herself into the river. April 27, 1900. So remember that guy who claimed that Mary Shepard came to his house and it was Bertha? His name is Henry Robinson, farm laborer, and he's been arrested for the attempted blackmail of Reverend Mellish. Robinson said that Bertha was living in the southern part of the state, at one time was named Mary Shepard Hedden, and that she's led a fast life and threatened exposure unless he got $500. If he is found guilty, he could get 10 years. So what happened? He was acquitted. During the trial, Reverend Mellish, Bertha's father, told of how he went with Robinson to the Hedden farm, and the young woman he saw there was not in any way like Bertha. Dr. Hammond, family doctor, testified that he also went to the Hedden farm to see this Mary Shepard. No resemblance. Mrs. Hedden said that, quote, Miss Shepard came from Columbus, Ohio to our house. She has no parents. She was at our house in 1894 and a few days in 1897. Miss Shepard was 27 years old, end quote. For the defense, 4 neighbors of the Heddens testified that the Shepard girl looked like the pictures of the Mellish girl. Another man who lived near the Heddens said that he saw Bertha at the Heddens 3 years ago with Benny Hedden, the so-called insane son. A lady who did the laundry for the Heddens also believed that Mary Shepard looked like Bertha's picture. A whole bunch of other stupid assumptions were made that were later refuted. And now we're a couple of months after the Blackmail trial. Mary Shepard, the real Mary Shepard, is now making a statement. Quote, I declare emphatically that I am not Bertha Mellish, that I never saw her in my life, never was in the town in which she lived, and in fact never heard of her until the matter of her disappearance became a newspaper incident. The story of H.S. Robinson that I came to the Hedden farm from Mount Holyoke the day after Miss Mellish left that place is equally untrue. I came directly from Kingsville, Ohio, where I have lived nearly all my life, and I reached Mr. Hedden's place October 17, 1897, nearly a month before Bertha Mellish is said to have disappeared. The object of my visit to the Heddens then and in 1894 was to see their son, whom I first met in 1893, and afterwards married. For certain reasons, chiefly on account of his subsequent mental condition, it was thought best that we should live apart for a time, and that our relation should be concealed. Whether that course was wise or not, I feel that the time has come when it should be known that I am the lawful wife of Benjamin F. Hedden, and entitled to bear his name. In this view, his people fully coincide. I expect for the future to live in the East, to be near my husband, and assist in his care. But I do not desire notoriety, and only make this statement in justice to myself, to my husband's people, and the Reverend Mr. Mellish. I trust the press will respect my wishes and not add to the trouble I already have." End quote. There would be at least a couple more false leads in the newspaper after this, which I am not going to get into because they went nowhere. Bertha's father passed away in 1909, her sister Florence in 1931. Bertha Mellish has still never been found. I have a few more students from this same area to talk about. Depending on the length of story, it may be next week or the next 2 weeks. We'll have to see. See you!